Imagine the first light of morning gently spilling into a rocky cave. The world is hushed. Pale blue light paints the walls, and a gentle chill still lingers in the air. Outside, birds murmur sleepy tunes, and a soft breeze rustles the grass and trees beyond the entrance. Here, in this quiet shelter of stone and shadow, a small group of humans is stirring. They wake slowly, as naturally as the world around them. There's no loud alarm or harsh buzz to jar them awake, just the gentle rhythm of life itself. A sleepy yawn, a stretch of tired arms, and someone smiles, feeling the comforting presence of those around them. A tiny fire still glows faintly in the hearth, kept alive overnight with careful hands and sleepy attention. Its orange embers dance, casting flickering shapes on smooth rock walls, and its quiet crackling feels like an invitation into the new day. One by one, they rise, sleepy figures padding softly across the cave floor. Hair tousled, eyes half-closed, they reach for simple morning routines. A sip of cool water from a carved wooden bowl. A sleepy stretch up toward the ceiling. A quiet, murmured greeting to one another. A shared acknowledgement that yes, another gentle morning has come. And just outside the cave, the world feels equally unhurried. Pale mist hovers above the grass like a light blanket. Nearby, the forest slowly breathes awake, branches swaying with drowsy grace, tiny animals stirring in their nests. Time feels suspended here, as though the sunrise has paused to admire the landscape. In these first hours, life is simple. Cavemen never rushed. Every task was softened by ritual. Even choosing a place to sit and feel the morning light on one's face was a deliberate, sleepy pleasure. Even listening to distant bird calls was something to savor. Every sound, every sight, even the gentle golden beams as they touch the cave wall, is a gentle reminder that a day is beginning. And as morning unfurls, so too do sleepy thoughts about the hours to come. There is food to gather and perhaps a fire to tend. But there is also the profound softness of the present moment, like a long, quiet breath. In this early hour, they take their time and let the world slowly come into focus, feeling as safe and grounded as the stones beneath their feet. As morning light filters deeper into the cave, all eyes turn to the gentle glow of the fire. Even long ago, fire was more than heat. It was a soft, glowing companion that filled the quiet with a sleepy sense of togetherness. Imagine a small circle of cave dwellers, gathered close, hands held out to feel its gentle warmth, listening to the tiny crackle as sparks dance up toward the ceiling. The fire was a sleepy heartbeat at the center of their world. It chased away the morning chill, it brightened dark corners, and it gave them a safe, glowing place to begin their day. Even the scent of the smoke was comforting, a faint, sleepy sweetness that spoke of cooked meals and familiar company. And when the fire was glowing strong, someone would speak. Stories were told, whispered at first, then rising into sleepy murmurs that held everyone close. These weren't hurried tales. They meandered, like a sleepy breeze through grass. Some were about animals, clever foxes or sleepy deer in the forest. Some were about ancestors who had walked these hills before, and some were simply made up to make others smile, a quiet reminder that even the hardest days could end in a sleepy, warm glow. The listeners weren't restless. They didn't need entertainment to pass the time. They sat, sometimes leaning against one another, feeling the sleepy rhythm of each other's breath. The fire reflected in their eyes, and they listened as shadows played on the walls, a gentle dance of light and dark that was hypnotic and slow. That fire was their meeting place and their sanctuary. Within its circle, hands warmed by flame and minds soothed by sleepy stories, they felt safe. It was a ritual they shared every day, creating a rhythm that felt as natural as the rising sun. And as the stories ended, the day began to take shape outside. But for a long, gentle while, they stayed close to the fire, comforted by its glowing light, their hearts as warm and sleepy as the embers that kept them company. When the fire had done its gentle work, and their sleepy bodies felt warm and ready, it was time to leave the cave and step into the world outside. Imagine padding quietly across soft ground as the forest unfurls before you, mist weaving between trunks and every leaf shimmering with tiny beads of morning dew. There is nowhere to rush. Every careful step is a small ritual. Toes sink into the cool grass. Hands trail along rough bark as they pass by, feeling the forest greet them like an old friend. Above, birds begin to murmur sleepy songs, their notes drifting through branches like ribbons of sound. This was a world where time felt gentle and forgiving. Early humans moved slowly, learning what they needed from the forest with sleepy patience. A few paused to pick berries, plump, dark, and tasting of the rain. Others paused simply to listen to the hum of a distant bee, or to close their eyes and feel the breeze kiss their cheeks. Every sensation was savored, as though even their own breathing belonged to this forest. And as they wandered, they might recognize trails worn into the earth, paths left by deer and smaller animals. Following them took them deeper into this sleepy green world, past sleeping birds tucked into branches and sleepy squirrels just stirring in their nests. Occasionally, someone would kneel to admire the intricate lacework of a spiderweb, glistening like a fragile dream. The forest was more than a place to hunt or gather. It was their quiet sanctuary. Beneath its sleepy canopy, they felt held and connected. The sound of a twig snapping underfoot or a breeze stirring the undergrowth was a gentle reminder that they weren't separate from this forest. They were part of its rhythm. And so they walked, step by sleepy step, gathering food and experiences until the gentle morning had unfurled into something a little brighter. Even then, their pace was unhurried, as though they had nowhere they'd rather be. They belonged to these sleepy woods, where every tree and creature spoke a language of calm. As the morning deepened and gentle light reached every corner of the forest, it was time for a different kind of quiet work. Tracking animals was an art as slow and careful as breathing. Every footprint in the soil, every broken twig, told a sleepy story, one that could only be read by those who moved without haste. Cavemen padded silently along well-known trails, eyes and ears tuned to subtle signs. A pressed blade of grass, a tuft of fur on a low branch, or the distant rustle of a sleepy deer just out of sight. Nothing was hurried, for the forest didn't reward impatience. It asked only that you listen, truly listen, to its sleepy whispers. When they did catch a glimpse of movement, the gentle rise and fall of a creature grazing, they paused and became part of the forest themselves. Every breath was shallow, every heartbeat steady and calm, every step slow as drifting clouds. Even their hands, feeling the cool earth and tracing sleepy footprints, moved like water. And all around, nature carried on its sleepy rhythm too. Birds sang softly in the trees, squirrels paused to nibble seeds, and insects filled the spaces with their sleepy hums. Time stretched and bent in these quiet pursuits, a long sleepy moment that held everyone together, hunter, prey, forest, and sky. When an opportunity came, a careful toss of a spear or a gentle closing of hands, it was never rushed, never forceful. Every part of this sleepy ritual was shaped by respect and patience, and often they would return to camp empty-handed, but not disappointed. The forest was still generous in its sleepy way, and there was always tomorrow when they could rise once again and follow the gentle tracks leading into another day. And so, with soft steps and sleepy eyes, they slowly turned back toward the fire and familiar shapes of their camp. The forest around them began to grow quiet too, as though it understood that this was not the time for loudness or haste, only for gentle tiredness, full of promise for the next sleepy chapter. As the gentle light shifted toward afternoon, the cave and camp felt like a sleepy, safe embrace. Returning to their hearth was like returning to a cradle, a place where time itself moved slower, soft as a breath. Here, life was simple and rhythmic, guided by sleepy hands and quiet purpose. Some began to tidy the small camp. Gentle scraping sounds could be heard as someone shaped a new tool from stone, careful taps echoing like sleepy heartbeats. Nearby, hands worked grass and fibers into baskets, weaving sleepy patterns by muscle memory. Every task was familiar, each movement smooth and unhurried. Even work felt like a restful ritual. The scent of food began to fill the air as someone set a small pot over the glowing embers. Maybe it was wild herbs and tubers gathered in the forest, or a bit of meat preserved from the hunt. Stirring was slow and careful, one sleepy circle at a time. And the fragrant steam rising into the cave felt like a warm sigh. And between these gentle chores, there was rest. A few would simply sink into the cool stone floor, hands folded beneath their heads, listening to the sleepy murmur of conversation. Others would doze in patches of sunlight spilling across the cave's mouth, feeling the gentle heat on their face as the forest outside whispered and rustled. There was no rush to finish or move on. Afternoon was a sleepy stretch of softness, a time to mend tools, to share quiet words, to let thoughts drift like dandelion seeds in a breeze. In this restful pause, they felt how good it was simply to exist together, the way one leaf rests against another on a branch. And so they dozed and worked and listened as the afternoon unfurled, each heartbeat in rhythm with the sleepy world beyond, and the gentle understanding that for this fleeting moment, everything was exactly as it ought to be. As the sun dips low, the forest outside the cave slows its gentle breath. Pale orange light filters through the entrance, touching every leaf and tumbling in like a soft sigh. Inside, shadows deepen and the fire's glow grows warmer, painting sleepy shapes on the walls and floor. Cave dwellers gather once more around the hearth, drawn by that timeless invitation of dancing embers. The air smells of wood smoke and earth, a soothing perfume that feels like a soft blanket. They lean close, arms resting on knees or draped across one another's shoulders, and let the comfortable hush settle in. Soft voices rise in murmured conversation, recounting the day's gentle adventures. One speaks of the berry they found by a sunlit rock, how its sweetness surprised them. Another recalls the delicate lace of a spiderweb they paused to admire, dew dripping like tiny jewels. Laughter is low and tender, like a whisper shared between friends under a starry sky. There is no hurry to extinguish the fire or rush into the night. Instead, they stoke the flames with small, careful hands, sending an occasional spark curling into darkness before dissolving. Each movement is unhurried, each gesture full of intention and calm. Outside, the forest grows quiet. A lone cricket offers a soft, rhythmic buzz, answering the fire's crackle. Somewhere in the distance, a nightbird calls, its song a sleepy lullaby that drifts through the open cave mouth. The world feels hushed and holy, as though every creature pauses to honor this gentle turning of day into night. And here, in the warm circle of light and warmth, hearts grow still. They share quiet stories of ancestors, dreamy tales of journeys across sweeping plains, of stars guiding tired travelers home. The words drift softly, carried by the fire's glow, settling into the stillness around them. As embers fade to a lazy red, eyelids grow heavy. Conversations drop to murmurs, then to silences that feel like peaceful music. The fire's warmth seeps into tired limbs, and bodies lean back against the cool stone, cradled by the cave's steady walls. In this half-lit world, day's worries have slipped away. All that remains is the soothing pulse of the fire, the gentle chorus of night, and the deep, sleepy contentment of belonging. And when the final ember sinks into a soft ash, they will drift towards sleep with calm hearts, knowing that tomorrow's gentle dawn will come again. When the fire's embers have settled into glowing coals, and the last tendrils of sunset fade beyond the trees, the cave grows hushed beneath a dome of stars. Imagine stepping outside into the cool night, where silver moonlight filters through branches and paints the world in gentle shades of gray. Above, constellations shimmer like whispered secrets. Cavemen paused to trace patterns in the sky, naming shapes after animals they knew, perhaps a great bear stalking the heavens, or a winding river of stars. They spoke softly of how their ancestors once read these lights to guide their dreams, believing the night sky to be an endless storybook. The air carried the scent of pine and earth, each breath crisp and serene. Somewhere in the darkness, owls called in sleepy tones, their voices echoing like distant lullabies. Crickets began their soft chorus, a rhythmic hum that blended with the gentle rustle of leaves stirred by a mild breeze. Walking barefoot on cool soil, they felt grounded to the world below and connected to the cosmos above. Each step was an invitation to reflect on the day's simple joys, on the mysteries yet to unfold, and on the warmth waiting back in the cave. Some lingered by a quiet pool of water, watching the moon's reflection shimmer like a silken ribbon. Others lay on soft moss, hands folded beneath their heads, whispering memories of old friends or curious dreams of tomorrow. Even the longest night felt safe under that vast, sleepy sky. And as the hours drifted on, eyelids grew heavy. The world seemed to slow, every sound softened by distance and shadow. With one last look at the moon's gentle glow, they turned toward home, toward the familiar curve of their cave and the promise of warmth within. Now, as the moon dips low and the cave's walls grow cool and shadowed, it's time for the final respite. The fire has long since settled into soft embers, and a hush drapes itself over the camp like a warm blanket. One by one, the cave dwellers settle onto beds of moss and soft furs, curling into sleepy shapes as they nestle close to the earth. The air is still, save for the gentle sigh of their breathing, slow and steady, like the quiet pulse of the world itself. Above them, sleepy stars shimmer through the cave's entrance, each one a tiny beacon in the hush. Their pale light drapes across the faces of these ancient storytellers, lending a dreamy glow to eyelids heavy with sleep. In that soft illumination, every line and curve feels tender and at peace. A few murmured words float through the air, soft blessings for safe dreams, gentle hopes for tomorrow's dawn. There are no grand speeches here, only words whispered like drifting feathers, carrying comfort more than meaning. And as the minutes pass, the last flicker of warmth from the embers fades. The scent of cooled ash mingles with earth and night air, forming a lullaby for the senses. Even the cave itself seems to breathe in these quiet moments, cradling its inhabitants in ancient stone. Soon, there is nothing but the gentle rhythm of sleep. Heart beats slow, thoughts drift like clouds, and the mind drifts beyond the boundaries of the day. In the peaceful darkness, every care is left behind, carried off into silent dreams. May your own journey now follow theirs, drifting into calm, cozy slumber, carried by the timeless rhythm of hearth and home. Good night.